What's up, you guys? My name is Amber, welcome to my channel, and today we are going to be discussing The Bridge by Bill Konigsberg. Ooh, I got that name on the first try! Hell yeah! First off, I would like to say a special thank you to the organization To Write Love on Her Arms. I did receive this book in a giveaway from them. I am actually a rep for the brand, so you can go ahead and use my link down below for 20% off any merch orders $25 or more or something like that. Specifics will be down below. But if you are unfamiliar with the organization To Write Love on Her Arms, or more often shortened to TWLOHA, had to think about it for a second. It's usually shortened by the acronym, is an organization that aims to help those who have mental illness and suicidal ideations. And it is an organization that is very, very special to me. It is one that I grew up seeing at Warped Tour. And as somebody who has my own mental health struggles, A+ organization. That being said, we are going to be discussing The Bridge itself, which is a book, and it is a very unique book, being that it plays out 4 separate storylines as potential scenarios that could happen, and we'll get into what exactly that means. But before I get too far into this review, I do want to mention a few trigger warnings that are involved in the book and will be discussed in my review, including most prevalently suicide, but there are also mentions of homophobia, physical assault, and bulimia. So if any of those things are potentially triggering to you, please have extreme discretion while watching the rest of this review and reading the book if you happen to. So the book itself follows 2 separate teenagers. There's Aaron and Tilly, and they both go up to the Washington Bridge in New York with the intent of jumping off of it. And they both go at the same time, like they happen to run into each other there. And from there, the storyline plays out in 4 separate ways, exploring the 4 separate options of what could happen from there. One being that Tilly jumps and Aaron doesn't. One being that Aaron jumps and Tilly doesn't. One being that they both jump, and one being that neither of them jumps. And the story not only tells how the events of those 4 separate scenarios would impact the lives of both Aaron and Tilly, but a whole cast of side characters, including like family, friends, people that they never had the opportunity to meet, stuff like that, and how the different decisions impact not only themselves but other people. I definitely think that it is probably one of the most, if not the most, accurate representation of mental illness that I've personally read so far. And that could just be because I don't have a ton of experience reading books that involve characters that do have mental illness. That could be because, you know, these struggles are more similar to ones that I've personally had than some other books that I've read, but this is definitely some of the most accurate that I have read. So it does make sense that the book is endorsed and one of like 2 or 3 books featured on the To Write Love on Her Arms website. And when reading the author's note at the end, I actually discovered that the author, Bill Konigsberg, does publicly talk about his own struggles with depression and a suicide attempt. So it does make sense that it is coming from more first-hand relatable experiences, and it is a book that definitely drew a few tears from me at certain points, primarily when it came to the second scenario, which was that Aaron jumped and Tilly didn't. For myself, at least, that was the most tear-jerking aspect of it, because we had already spent like a whole quarter of the book getting to know Aaron and his family, and so seeing the opposite reversed and now suddenly he's the one who died, and seeing the after effects of his family on that was a really, really harsh jump from the first quarter of the book. We got the second quarter, so I definitely cried a few times just because it was so intense and so upsetting to read. Like, not in a negative way, like I think it was very, very unnecessary for the goal of the book. Not so much that it was like overwhelming to read, and not so much that like I would recommend having a Kleenex box with you. It was definitely just like there were a few little moments where you had to wipe away your face. I will have to say that it was incredibly surreal reading about somebody else's like manic and depressive episodes, as somebody who does experience similar issues. Oh, it was so weird reading them from the perspective of other people. And the fact, like, it was relatable, but because here's the thing. Depression has a really good knack at making whoever has it think that they're alone and that they're the only person who has ever experienced these feelings before. So having the written physical proof and reading how that feeling is actually relatable to other people and that it is a feeling that other people have had and have gotten through and have lived with, I think is really, really important to display. But man, was it weird to read. Honestly. Another thing that I did like about the book are some of the aspects of the characters. One that I feel like for the most part, a lot of the characters were, at least primarily like Aaron and Tilly, were more fully fleshed out characters, and some of the cut side characters definitely had their moments of like backstory. Side note, this isn't necessarily a criticism as one of the funniest things I've ever read. There is a side character in the book named, I want to say her name was Molly. And Molly is a part of Tilly's like backstory, in the fact that like Molly is a bully towards Tilly. And obviously there are 4 different scenarios for what Molly does and like how that turns out and blah blah blah, and for like character development. But her like tragic backstory is that, and I laugh because it's so silly to read. I know that I'm sure there are certain people who absolutely relate with this, but her backstory is like she's one of the popular girls, but she has a secret. She's obsessed with Sarah J. Maas, the author. I mean, I just found it incredibly humorous because I was just like, wow, okay, a very mundane backstory, got it. And like her backstory is that, you know, she's popular and like her mom has high expectations of how she should be. And she has this secret that like her friends wouldn't be cool with, that she's actually super obsessed with Sarah J. Maas and like wants to cosplay as one of her characters at a like book con. And that she can't do that because like it'd be scandalous. So she creates drama surrounding other people to like get people away from the fact that she's actually a super fucking nerd. Her own words. And like I get that that's absolutely relatable to some people, and I'm not laughing at you in real life. It's just reading that and having that be the dramatic reveal was so like, oh, okay. Like people have actually died and you're talking about wanting to go to a book con. Got it. Going back to my original point, most of the characters are fully fleshed out, especially when it comes to Aaron and Tilly. As fully fleshed out as you can be with like a book this big that has 4 separate storylines behind it. But one aspect that I really, really liked is that there were 2 kind of major things in each of their storylines, but it wasn't what the book centered around. Like, for example, Aaron happens to be gay and Tilly happens to be adopted, but like neither of those 2 things are the reason that like either of them wanted to jump. And like neither of those things are what led to any of their depressions and like their mental health issues and suicidal ideations. It was literally just like, that's what they happened to be, which was so exciting to read because you never get books like that where like they have such major things as part of who they are without that being like the center and the point of the story. And that just feels so close to real life because obviously there are people who are adopted, there are people who are gay, like there are so many different things, but that's not like the only thing that exists about those people. So it was really, really, really exciting to see that represented in a book. I was thrilled. And that being said, I mean, I myself cannot personally speak on the experiences of what it is like to be adopted, as I have never experienced that, but I am a member of the queer community myself. So it was fun seeing a queer character not only represented in an accurate way, but I did look into it, and Bill Konigsberg actually, I don't know the exact label that he has, but he does have a husband, so he is himself a member of the queer community, so it wasn't like it was a gay character being written by a straight author. That's not something that I knew while reading the book. It was something that I found out after, because in the little, like, about the author, it mentions his husband, and I cannot express to you the sheer thrill that is unexpectedly reading that a guy has a husband. Like, that good representation that you're not expecting. Beautiful. Love it. So definitely a lot of really, really good positives about the book. It was more or less fairly easy to follow. I did have a few moments where I found myself like having to reread a section a few times, but that was mostly just like distracted brain. But there were also a few instances where I wanted to like reread just to make sure that I had like read properly and like was properly understanding what was going on. But overall, yeah, I definitely think it is probably aimed specifically at young adults. I think it would be a good read for anybody who is in high school, or, you know, like other young adults who are experiencing depressions and any mental illnesses or mental episodes themselves. I think it is a really, really good concept to be able to read about other people who are going through it themselves. And I don't know how to say this in a way that's not gonna sound f***ed up, honestly, but I think it's good for people with suicidal ideations to be able to read a storyline that not only features people getting over that, but also features people indulging it. Like, obviously not because it's a good thing, but because it shows the circumstances of them doing it. To me, at least, like, it doesn't feel like it's a guilt trip, which I feel like a lot of things are, where it's like, oh, you shouldn't kill yourself because, like, think of the other people. But it does show it in a more casual way, like, you did do it, here's what happens. But then also to be able to see the upsides of what happens if you don't, but not even just in a wholly like, oh, you didn't do it, so like everything's fantastic. Because in all three of the storylines where at least one of the two are left alive, like they definitely still have their mental health issues. Like, just because they didn't do it that one particular day, it doesn't mean that they're not struggling anymore. That doesn't mean that they don't try again, but it does show them getting help and trying to get better, or at least trying to live with it, which I do think is really, really important. Because too, I feel like another thing, like there are so many authors where it's like, oh, you could be suicidal, but like don't do it and then everything's gonna be fine. And it's like, no, the f it's not, because those feelings aren't gonna go away magically. You know, that is something that you still have to live with and learn to manage. And I think it's really, really important and really great that this book shows the characters doing that. If you are interested in reading the book, I would recommend either the book to people who either don't share any of the same struggles that the characters do, or if you do, to read the book when you are at a little bit more of a stable mindset, mostly just for safety reasons, because like certain people are triggered by certain things, but at the same time, I don't think it is done in a way that would be like super triggering even if you were on more of a low level. Because like, I'll be honest, I started reading the book, like I was not feeling it. And I definitely had the thought, I'm like, maybe I shouldn't read a book about killing yourself when I am not feeling ideal myself. But it turned out to not at all be an issue. It wasn't like triggering in any way. But I also did read most of the book while I was at a friend's house, so you know, just like readers beware, obviously we want everybody to be safe. That being said, if anybody is in need of any kind of mental health resources, I will leave some down in the description below. Thank you guys so much for watching. I had a blast hanging out with y'all. Peace.